again to the Iron City Roundhouse Report, the podcast where the love for the high iron meets the precision of the scale model. Whether you're tracking the latest Class 1 freight movements or perfecting the scenery on your home layout, we're here to celebrate the history and hobby of railroading. Climb aboard and settle in as we clear the signals for another journey through the world of trains. Hello once again, and welcome to another episode of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. Pat and I are here in the studio again tonight, ready to introduce episode 7 of season 2 of the Roundhouse Report. And also in one of our continuing regular segments that we do, regular special segments, I guess we could call them, we have another Office Car Special coming up tonight, Office Car Special Volume 3. Once again, our good friends, great friends of Iron City N-Scale, Todd Treaster and Dave Abeles are here to talk with us about railfanning safety and railfanning tips and things of that nature. So we're looking forward to that. It's kind of a big, it's always a fun time when Todd and Dave are around, but we're kind of in a celebratory mood anyway, Pat, because we recently crossed a big milestone. So I'll let Pat share that with everybody. So take it away, Pat.
Oh, great, Brad. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Brad and I have a great show for you this evening. You know, when you get Todd and Dave, Uncle Dave going, we didn't have to turn the mics on very long, did we, Brad?
They're the easiest ones for us to do because we can just say, take it away, guys, and hit the stop button when you're done. We'll be in bed.
Right. So I sent Brad, I think, an email this morning at 6:30 this morning. We cracked the 10,000 download mark, which, Brad, I can't believe it. It's not even a year. We got that far. And in the big world of podcasting, it for guys that are not advertising and it's word of mouth, that's pretty good. Could we do better? Obviously we can, but we'll take it, right, Brad? We'll do the first 10,000 and go from there.
Yeah, I honestly don't. We didn't really have a metric in mind when we started this. I mean, if you think back to that original pilot episode that we did, we were just saying, if this only ever reaches our friends at Iron City and they like it, that's good enough for us. And
that's right.
It has definitely spread beyond that, and it's even caused the numbers of Iron City to go up. So we appreciate that. It means more than we can say. I know I've said it many times, but we really do appreciate everybody who takes time to listen to us and to support the Roundhouse Report. And we just crossed a pretty significant milestone, and we got another one coming up here in about a month. We will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary. We have not even been doing this for a year yet, and that anniversary date's coming up. So lots of exciting stuff, and just a ton of gratitude from Pat and I both to everybody who does listen and support, offer suggestions, offer feedback. All that stuff is just so meaningful and so very much appreciated. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Brad, we're closing in on some milestones too. We're getting a lot of people around the world now listening to us. We have Iron City, Australia. Looks like we're having Iron City Asia build very quickly. A lot of folks from that area, the Thailand, Japan, Philippines, South Korea. We have folks listening from all those countries. We have Iron City Europe. A lot of folks from Austria. It looks like Germany and that area. And then of course we have Iron City UK. A lot of folks from the UK listen to us now. So we're very happy with that. And our North American fans, of course, Iron City, Canada, and then all our different groups in Iron City, the United States. So it just keeps growing, Brad. I never thought anybody from some of the countries that are listening to us, Argentina and Chile, very happy to have all that community listening in. And that just tells me model railroading is a worldwide phenomenon, and we're very happy to have everybody here.
Yeah, it's a universal thing, and everybody who's joined up and everybody who's following us, wherever you're from, whatever part of the world you're from, just so glad to have you a part of the Iron City family, the Iron City community. It's great to have everybody. even if I have to use Google Translate sometimes to see some of the messages I get. I love getting them, and Google Translate works just fine. If I type back to some of you guys and it doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, but I speak a little bit of French, but besides that, English is the only language I know, so I do my best. But we just love hearing from you wherever you're from, and thank you so much for that, for 11 months of support, and we look forward to many, many more. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that.
Okay, Brad, we have a packed show tonight, so I'm going to get into the Roundhouse Report and go kind of quick because we have a lot to talk about with the guys from OCS Volume 3. So I'll go first if that's okay, and we'll start the Roundhouse Report.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. Hey, I'm still catching up from that one post when we had 67 people reply.
Yeah.
And so tonight I'm going to go and say, hey, look, Derek Davis, nice layout. He's doing the gypsum plant. It looks really good. He sent a couple of pictures of it. I think this might be scratch built. A really nice plant there. And Derek, continue to keep posting. We love to see more of the layouts. He has looks like it's got a couple of different buildings on it. It has the like the dump area looks like, or the
Mm-hmm.
in plate where you put the center flow.
Yep.
And then he has another area where he has looks like a tanker car, and then he has really nice. He's done a great job with the landscaping around that and the scenery. It looks really good. So Derek, great job. Thank you very much. And my other guy that I'm going with tonight that posted right below him, and Brad, you know this guy. He's been on at the very beginning. He's out in Seattle. It's an HO layout. It's the home steel work by Bob
Oh,
O'Neill.
yes. His,
Just unbelievable museum quality layout.
yeah. Yeah. One of the nicest examples of steel mill modeling I think you're going to find anywhere. I am always amazed at what he's accomplished there. To fit what he's fit into even a big basement is quite a feat of modeling, and to make it look great to boot. Just hats off to you, Bob, and to Derek. That
Yeah.
gypsum plan is of particular interest to me. In fact, just this past week, my father had an appointment at Danville, which is near here. There's Geisinger Medical Center is headquartered there. So I was taking him down. We like to travel down the back roads rather than out on the interstates, and we went right by a fairly well-known formerly coal-fired power plant in central Pennsylvania called Strawberry Ridge. It has since been converted to natural gas, but we went by the plant. But near that plant, fortunately, when there's no coal there's a backup pile of coal, but it used to be daily coal trains into that plant. But now there's a gypsum plant there. So instead of having coal trains go back to the ridge, we now have a gypsum train, and it goes to that gypsum plant, which interestingly enough is what Derek shared with us. And I agree with you. I thought his was just a fantastic example, and also some great modeling. So thank you to Derek and Bob for both of those.
Yeah, just great work. And when you see a real picture of the homestead and then you see Bob's, it's almost like even the cars in the parking lot he matched. It's unbelievable. That snapshot in history that he has. Okay, Brad, who do
Yep.
you have tonight?
Well, the one I had to point out, since I've always been a big fan of the Buffalo and Pittsburgh Railroad, because it's, it intersects with or interchanges with the Buffalo line up north of here on some of my favorite railfanning areas. Ryan Wilson recently bought a Kato -9 undecorated shell from Esther's, as it turns out, and just did a friggin' marvelous job putting a Buffalo and Pittsburgh paint job on that thing. Numbered it 4550, and absolutely, I mean, Atlas would be proud to sell that on one of their locomotives. Not Brad, Ryan just did a fantastic job painting and decaling that locomotive. So hats off to you, Ryan, for sharing that. And hopefully we'll maybe get to see that thing run on the Iron City T-Track layout at some point in the future. But just thanks for sharing that with us. And again, hats off to you, my friend. That looks absolutely great. Do you recall seeing that one, Pat?
Oh yeah, and Ryan's done some West Penn stuff too. He's done the anniversary
Yep.
locomotive that he runs on his layout. Beautiful West Penn. And I think Ryan's been kicking the tires on doing some of this professionally, like, doing it for hire. Not sure where he's at with that yet, but I hope he gets into it. Yeah.
He's definitely talented enough to do that.
Yeah. Well, I know someone that needs some painting, so.
What are you looking to have done now?
You know me, man. I gotta have that West Penn complete.
Yeah.
But he's done some great work.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So thank you, Ryan, for sharing that with us. And with that, Pat, that is my contribution to the Roundhouse Report for this episode.
Okay, Brad, let's not let the fans wait. Let's turn on Todd and Uncle Dave.
Everybody take a deep breath, boys. Once these guys get started, it's like,
what they say, once the train gets moving, get out of the way. So
don't stand on the track. Coming through.
So we'll be right back with OCS Volume 3 right after this. Hey, welcome back, Iron City. We got a great show for you tonight. The OCS Volume 3 is here. I'm going to pass over to Brad. He's going to introduce some of the fan favorites.
Yeah, with us tonight are two special guests who really are kind of like regular members of the cast. We like to have these guys on as often as we can because they both have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Both have had many really cool experiences, both in the hobby of model railroading and in real railroading, including railfanning of real railroads. And both had, Dave still has, and Todd had a very long career as a railroad. So with us tonight, we have our good friend from Burnham, PA, our good buddy Todd Treaster, former Conrail and Norfolk Southern engineer. And coming to you all the way from Lebanon, New Jersey, we have Uncle Dave Abeles, who works for New Jersey Transit. So thank you both very much for being here. As always, it's great to have you, and we're really looking forward to having a good conversation tonight. So thanks, guys.
Oh man, it's always a pleasure to be here, and I think Todd will agree with that one.
Yep, 100%. It's always a pleasure to be here and talk. Yep, you bet.
I mean, it's just so nice to be part of a group, and we've talked about it before, to be part of a group that's so interested in the hobby and has so much fun with each other. You know, it's a hobby-based podcast with people that are just a pleasure to talk with. So far, so good.
Yep, absolutely.
And that goes for you guys too. It's always enjoyable for us whenever we can have you two on. It's always a good show, that's for sure. So thanks again for being here. And Pat, what do we have in store for the guys tonight? I know you have some questions and some topics that I want to get to.
Yeah. Hey, as a model railroader, I think a lot of us didn't realize, at least I didn't for years, that there's another hobby within the hobby, within the hobby, within the hobby. And one of those is railfanning. And I don't think sometimes we don't give enough credit or time to it. I know there's pages and pages of Facebook pages that are dedicated to it. There's groups that are dedicated to it way before the digital age, magazines, different articles and journals and everything about how to railfan and everything. But I have yet to really tackle that topic on hardly any Facebook pages that I've read recently or podcasts. So I thought tonight would be a great night to have two experts to do two things. One, talk about the great experience that railfanning is. And it's really, if you do it with a group of guys, it becomes even funner. And the safety of railfanning and the safety of being around operations, live operations with real-time class one or your local short line or whatever, how to be safe about that. So we're going to pass it over to Todd and to Dave. Dave, tell us a little bit about your railfanning experience and what you enjoy most about it. And Todd, help us out too with what you like to see on railfanning and the safety of it all. So I'll just pass it over to Dave and we'll get started.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, Pat, it's always a pleasure to be here and to talk about stuff that's near and dear to our hearts. And, it's interesting because I think that, and I'll be curious to hear Todd's point on this too, but when I was young growing up, the first thing I was exposed to was model trains when I was real little, to the point where it was stories I heard from my parents about how interested I was in watching a friend's model railroad go around and around in his basement. They could leave me down there at 18 months or 20 months old, not even 2 years old yet. And I just stand there on the back of a chair and watch the train go around and just be in heaven. So as time went on and I had exposure to library books, my mom would take us to the library, of course. And once I was in preschool, they had a library there, and I always loved anything train based. So for me, the hobbies kind of grew up together. And when I would see a train, which wasn't all that often in New Jersey at this point, a lot of the main lines had cut back a bit. The dark side of Conrail was to make it profitable. They had a lot of cutting they needed to do. And a lot of lines where there used to be a train had less and less. And so growing up here, it was a special treat to see a train. And boy, it would blow my mind, would absolutely blow my mind. And so my modeling always came from the energy that I felt when I saw a train, the excitement and the passion and the wonder of the whole thing. And I think that was the element with which that was the passion, the energy, I should say, that I took when I started to be able to go trackside. And that really took off. I started to meet my friend Jack when I was 10 years old. His dad was a train fan of multiple scales. He had a Lionel layout, and Jack had some Lionel stuff. And his dad would take us railfanning, where there was some actual trains to see around here, and it was great. So the whole thing kind of snowballed and went right along with it. But here I was fascinated by all things trains. And so the ones that I got to see when I was trackside were extra special. And that's one of the reasons Conrail resonates so much with me and has since I was a young boy. So that's really how I started to get into it. And then the railfanning part, as much as I loved it, it really, especially as I grew older and had my own kids, the model railroad side of things really grabbed some traction with me as well, because it kept me home. Railfanning requires that you go out and be away from home for a while, and that's tougher with young kids. So the whole thing moves in the direction of coming together, and the prototype is very much an inspiration for everything we do on the Onondaga Cutoff. And it's all rolled into those early days of being in wonder of what I was seeing. Now,
oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm curious about Todd, because he's another one that's loved it since before he was even remembering anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to get in with that story that I've heard you tell about. Well, I think actually Jack told it maybe when we were somebody did, but about the time you were waiting someplace and a signal dropped and you knew there was a train coming, but your dad said, "We got to get going." So then years later, when you had built the Onondaga Cutoff, your dad came to see it. And Jack said, "This is your fault because you didn't let Dave stay and see that train."
Yep. That sounds a lot like my friend Jack, who I work with every day up at NJ Transit, even today.
I always got a kick out of that.
That's one of the good ones. That's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
And now, Todd, you ended up working. You would ride your bikes over to the Juniata Valley, but at that time, was it Juniata Valley or was it Conrail?
It was Penn Central.
Penn Central, awesome. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. See, when I was born in the early '60s, so my grandfather was a guard here at the Standard Steelworks, who makes railroad wheels and axles, and he always was at the Yeagertown gate, at the upper gate, because that's where the train would come in. And I would go up there, and my grandmother would take his lunch up there and pack me a lunch, and I'd go up and sit in the guard shack and wait for the train to come out. But the guys would come out of the scrapyard at the Standard, and that's when they had an engineer on it, and they'd put me on the Baldwin switchers. I'd run up and down through the scrapyard, and then the Penn Central train would come out, and I'd get on it and ride around on it for the day. And that was my everyday thing, growing up. And my grandfather always had off Wednesday and Thursday. So on Thursdays, we'd get up in the morning when I was off school, and we'd go to the train station and hang out till about noontime. And that's when you'd see the Duquesne would come in with an E8 and a half a dozen cars. The mail line would go west with E8s and flexi vans and stuff on it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I grew up seeing. And my grandfather was my inspiration for that. But when my mom and dad first got married, when I was born, they lived along the tracks on the Milroy branch. And there was a grade crossing right there, and the train would blow for the crossing, and I'd get up and stand at the window. It would go by and do its work and come back, and I'd stand there to it back by, and Then when I was 12 years old, when I was 10 years old, I was riding my bike. And then when I was 12, those guys took a liking to me and they hauled me around the train all day long. I'd take the train to Reedsville and back. And, and before you know it, there was an engineer from Scranton Wilkes-Barre hung out down here from Wilkes-Barre Division. You get up out of the seat one day, he said, get over here and get in the seat. You've been hanging around here long enough. It's high time you learn how to run one of these things. 12 years old. I'm like, okay, no problem. And that's what I did every day. As soon as I heard that horn blowing, I'd be on my bike up to Yeagertown, throw my bike inside the guard shack and get on the engine and ride around all day long and put cars to standard, take cars to Milroy. And I even wrecked it one time too, put the engine on the ground, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, that was my part of it. And of course, then I'd go home and go to the basement and, try to figure things out. And I was kind of a loner. I was, young, didn't know what I was doing, but I tried things and I never wanted to, I just wanted to have fun running trains, and then started wanting to share it with people. But I tried to do it as prototypically as I could, but I never had any kind of operations or anything. But when I started working for the railroad, I didn't have time.
Right. Right. That's one of the big things I think that people should understand is that, just like you don't have time necessarily to build a huge railroad and get into hardcore operations when you've got a job, shift work, or something that keeps you real busy or traveling.
Yeah.
But
well, it's like I said to these guys earlier, I worked 48 days in a row.
Sure.
No rest days, because there wasn't no rest days back on Conrail. Conrail just pounded you into the ground, but they were good to work for. I mean, you could get away with a lot of things you can't get away with today. And, and believe me, if you weren't keeping that train on schedule, they would, why did you lose, 47 seconds between these two interlockings? What are you doing out there? There's no speed restrictions, and they'd question it. If you were delaying a train, you were going to get nailed. Now today, they don't care if it takes you an hour to get from interlocking to interlocking. They care less, But
so what a neat transition for you to go, basically to come up loving the prototype so much and having at such a young age to have the exposure to being on locomotives. I mean, that's a dream for so many people.
Yeah. And I think that's why my engineer trainer, he said, you're such a natural at it, but you were doing it since you were 12. Even though
That's right.
Even though it was small switcher engines and GP7s and things like that, but you still had a knack for it and had a natural feel for it.
So did you say you ran both the standard steel on the switch engines that you drove, and then you also got on Penn Central trains too? Is that what?
Yeah, I didn't drive the standard steel engines, but I rode them. They were Baldwin and Alco switchers they had down here at the standard.
Gotcha.
That's cool. I got to ride on them as a kid, and then the SW9s and GP7s that were stationed at Lewistown would come out and deliver cars to the standard. And the branch line went all the way to Milroy at one time, but it ended at Reedsville towards the end. But we'd take hopper cars and box cars up there for different customers and drop them in there on the team tracks and stuff. And
was that as far as that ever went to Reedsville, or what?
It went to Milroy.
To Milroy, okay.
Yeah, and then the Kishocoquillas Valley Railroad ran all the way to Belleville.
Yeah,
but it was abandoned in 1940 or 41.
And what was that? Wasn't there a Pensy branch that went from like Selinsgrove down?
The Sunbury and Lewistown Railroad went from Lewistown down through Middleburg and come out at Selinsgrove.
Yeah. So that's a different line from the one you were talking about.
Well, yeah, but I did run the train all the way to Maitland because the tracks are still there yet to the scrapyard. It still goes down there twice a week, but I put an engine and two cars on the ground down there once too. So
did you?
Oh yeah.
It's good. It's good experience. So that's how I learn. I start by learning what not to do, and then
I put an engine and 7 cars on the ground in 3 different locations on the Burnham branch.
A little bit of this is just being a guy. This is how guys learn.
We
tend to make a mistake, and then we make up for it. But this sort of leads into, I think, the second part of the discussion too, because one of the things that's a fact is that this stuff is not. It's heavy equipment.
Mm-hmm. And it's unforgiving.
It's not
unforgiving.
It is not. You really got to think. And this is where professional railroaders, we have training, we have all sorts of stuff that goes into preparing you and making sure that you're ready for certain things. But one of the things that you got to recognize as somebody that enjoys watching trains is you've always got to be ready for any train on any track on any time to do just about anything.
Yep. And that was one of the things I disciplined myself to, and I always told the kids that I trained, do not walk in the gauge of the tracks under no circumstances. I don't care if it's easy to walk there, stay off the track. Don't get on the track. And when you're back there moving around back there, I got 40, 50 cars between us. I can't see what you're doing back there. I have no idea. And the last thing I want to do is run over.
It's kind of up to you, definitely, to stay out of one of the danger zones, because it's not like the engineer's trying to get you; he just can't see you.
Nope. And it's unfortunate that has happened. There was a guy in Enola at Harrisburg got run over by his own train. And he was a veteran. He had 30 years on the railroad. Yep. He should know better.
And it's just all it takes is a momentary lapse of reason with this stuff, because in the end, it's heavy equipment, and heavy equipment's always good. Physics has no friends, as they say, on the railroad. It doesn't matter how good you are or how well you know your coworkers. In the end, if you're in the path of something that's that heavy, you're in trouble.
And when you're shoving, 100 cars back, you got a mile between you. There's a mile of distance there, and it's insane. And I mean, I've actually had a truck train that was 19,000 feet long one time out of Harrisburg.
Wow.
19,000 feet. That's almost 4 miles. I was on the other side of the Rockville Bridge when I made my third double.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And that was down at the farm show. That was down in the middle of Harrisburg at GA.
Yeah. And Rockville's still a great place to watch trains, but I think, when it comes to safety and rail fanning, the first thing to remember is you should not ever be on those tracks. There is no picture that's worth it. There's just no way you should put yourself in that situation, because
and now in today's world, they're not as lenient as they used to be neither.
That's true too. Yeah, you get yourself in trouble now too, on top of being unsafe.
Because of lawsuits and things like that, they don't tolerate it. It's funny, when I run the OCS, you'd see rail fans along the track, and the guys on the engine would go, well, they're rail fans. Okay. But if they'd see a hunter, or they would see somebody that shouldn't be there out of place, you got to report that. They wouldn't want to report the rail fans, but they wanted to report it's like, well, what's the difference here?
But Todd, I think the thing that got you and I thinking about doing something like this was that there's been some incidents on that. Is it the Bright Line in Florida that you were telling me about?
The Bright Line. They kill somebody once a week.
Because and isn't that the place that has the main line? There's chain link fences on both sides of it, so you
most places are, but that doesn't stop a trespasser. They'll find ways to get around it and go through it. I mean, it's going to happen, but people don't realize, like at Lewistown, we have a 35 mile an hour speed restriction at one end of the station and 40 at the other. So trains are going through there 35 miles an hour. Well, you're in a tight, confined space. They look like they're going 50 or 60 mile an hour, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask somebody that's not familiar with it, how fast that train goes? Oh, it's got to be going 50. Well, if it's going 50, you better run.
Yeah.
It's just going to wreck on that curve, because it ain't going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that curve at 43 mile an hour one night, and I wasn't very comfortable with even that. So
and is that Bright Line's a fairly high speed passenger line?
They're 90 mile an hour.
Yeah, so
I believe, aren't they, Dave?
Yeah, that's my understanding. And
I think they're 90. Yeah.
Tough thing about them too is that they went from having a couple slow freight trains a day, or maybe
having high speed passenger trains.
Right, and so people just weren't used to it. People don't pay attention.
I think the very first one they ran, they killed a woman. I think the very first trip, first day.
Yeah, it's just very, very unforgiving stuff.
Yep.
And so the first thing to remember when you're out there watching trains is be safe. You got to think like a railroader. Yep. And be out of harm's way. But harm, if everybody could see harm coming, there'd be no problems. The thing is, everybody thinks they can see it coming, and they don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's, that you hit that nail on the head. Think like a railroader. There's some railroaders that don't think like a railroader.
That's true too.
That's the sad part about it is the young kids today, and I'm not cutting them up or cutting them all up, but some of them just don't think. They want to just, it's just a job to them. They want to go out and get it done, and they don't want to pay attention to things, and it's unfortunate, but it's not always the young guys that get hurt, or killed. Sometimes it's the older, the veterans that get used to the job and get familiar with things and start to get a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, but get lackadaisic on what they're doing and not paying attention.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. And then, so you always got to be paying attention. And the other thing to remember about railfanning today, and it's different. This part is different, I think, than it was even just a couple of years ago. But as time goes on, more and more of these photo angles and pictures are out there on the internet. And so, if you want to find a spot to get a picture of a train, the internet is a great place to start.
Yep.
If you Google a railroad or a location, or Norfolk Southern on a curve, or CSX on a bridge, and you'll find angles that are a safe place to watch trains in a lot of cases, and you can get inspired and have some ideas on how you want to approach it. And that's an important piece of the equation, is just doing a little bit of homework before you go out to a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you did most of your railfanning up in the on the Chicago line.
Quite a bit, yep, and quite a bit out of Crescent as well, and that's where we first crossed paths, of course. But
yes,
and it's the Chicago line's much more flat and level, so you're up on a bridge, or you're at a station platform, or a grade crossing.
Yeah, and I never did much up in the Syracuse area, but we did a lot out in Erie.
Yeah, okay, I'll see a lot of the same trains, same kind of culture out there. For sure.
Exactly. Yep, and I did a ton of railfanning in Cumberland, Maryland, on the CSX and along their line to Shenandoah Junction, where the N&W main line crossed over the B&O main line at Shenandoah Junction. That was a great place to railfan.
I love that spot. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the fun things too with the internet, is you can check out all these maps are available online now. Yeah. Half the places have a webcam, and you can really find some places where it's nice and busy.
Yeah, see, back in my day, and even your day too, there wasn't no internet or anything to find. You were taking a chance and going there. I mean, we'd go to Binghamton a lot too, and you'd see 10 trains one time, you see one the next.
Yeah, exactly. Binghamton was always like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was on the route between New Jersey and Syracuse. Yeah, so we would stop in Binghamton, and of course, man, in the early '90s, what a show that was between Delaware Hudson and CP's Alcos and MLWs.
Yep.
One of the things that gets missed in this, when you have one of these horrible accidents where somebody's on the tracks, or sometimes just too close to the tracks, not realizing not only how big a train is, but how wide it is, and somebody does get badly injured or even killed. I mean, we all feel sorry, even if they were doing something stupid. You don't like to see that happen to anybody. So the person who's dead, it's awful for, but what gets overlooked a lot of times is what it does to the crew in the cab of that locomotive, because
you have to live with it.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate in my 31-year career that I never directly killed anybody.
Yeah.
I never ran over anybody. I come close. I've come close to hitting cars. I've come close to hitting people. Very, very close, And
I can remember, for me, my grandfather was the person who got me interested in railroading. He was a New York Central man, and, there weren't as many safety things in place. And back, when he first started working, and there was a lot more rail traffic, especially in this area. And he had several instances where he had to walk, back from the cab to pull somebody out after they've been run over. And it stayed with him for the rest of his life. He would, in fact, that was the only time he ever really got mad at my cousin and I, is when he caught us down. We weren't in the gauge, but we were definitely
close enough to get.
Yep. He gave us a good butt chewing for that.
Yeah, there was one engineer that I worked with many years, and he had 13 kills.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had one was supposed to be me.
Jeez.
I had got called for his train at a Conway, and when I showed up, he showed up. Like, what are you doing here? And he says, well, this is my assigned train. I called up and talked to the train master, and Oh, you're getting TV 0 now. You're not going to get that train. He's going to get it. He was setting at East Conway ready to go when I got TV 0 and passed him. He was behind me about 40 minutes or so and killed 4 kids at a grade crossing.
Oh, man. Gosh.
Yeah, or that'd have been me.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, it just underscores just one mistake. Now, the trains cannot stop on a dime. It's not like a model train. Actually, it's like a model train if you made it the weight of your car and put the momentum up to 9.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's just like you can have it and put a keep alive in it. And then what ends up happening is that you can run off the end of the track and it keeps right on going down the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes a mile and a half down the track before it stops. Yeah.
So Dave, So Dave, we talked about, different angles and everything you were talking about earlier, but there are a lot of places now that are drawing almost like tourism for railfanning. And I know you've gone to several of them, and I have just started going to some of them myself, like Horseshoe Curve, Cassandra, Crescent, and that's just in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania. Of course, South Side over here in Pittsburgh is a great place to railfan. Dave and Todd and Brad, what are some locations that you guys just think are nice, safe places to railfan, and you really enjoy railfanning at those locations? I'll go ahead and start with you, Dave.
Oh man, there's a lot of favorites out there. Certainly those are good. It's a lot of fun to stand along the Amtrak Northeast Corridor, the former PRR main line in New Jersey or Maryland or Baltimore, or even up through Delaware. This high speed, high density passenger trains, and you're on a station platform, which is a safe place to sit. Another great spot that I love out west is Tehachapi Loop, and it's not that far a drive if you fly into San Francisco or Los Angeles, and you can easily make a day trip for either of those towns. You can make a day trip up to Tehachapi, and Tehachapi is the closest thing I've found to what looks like a basement model railroad. They run on these 10,000, 12,000 foot trains around these loops and 20 curves at once, and tunnels and meets and Union Pacific and BNSF all mixed together. And it's just spectacular. And there's a road that winds along a good chunk of it, which is a lot of fun. Great place to watch trains. Horseshoe Curve Park, as you mentioned, is top shelf. It's excellent and certainly worth a visit. That's sort of a bucket list item. Everybody out there that's listening to this podcast had to try and find a way to get to Horseshoe Curve, because it's so much history there and such a great place to watch the trains pass back and forth. Downtown Syracuse, New York, they've got an Amtrak station there with a high level platform that sits right next to the Chicago line, and that's still a very busy spot. Not as busy as the Conrail days, but the trains are longer. So it really depends on where you are. But then, Deschler or Fostoria, Ohio are both great. Chicago's got a ton. Rochelle Park, and I mean it's up and down the racetrack. Again, if you've got a favorite railroad or favorite kind of locomotive, the internet can put you in touch with some places that are fantastic to watch trains.
And Todd, where do you think you have some locations that you enjoy railfanning from? Now that you're retired, you can do that.
Well, I got a mile and a half drive, and I could be at the Lewistown station, which is along the Middle Division, which is one of the busiest main lines here in the East. And again, like we talked about, Horseshoe Curve's a great place. Crescent, obviously, and I've railfanned quite a bit around Pittsburgh, Conway, and like you said, the South Side. You can go over there and sit right there at Station Square and watch the boats go up and down and watch the trains go back and forth. That's a great place. Like I said earlier, Shenandoah Junction, West Virginia, what an awesome place that was. There's plenty of places there to railfan and be safe. The trouble is you don't see the trains like you see here on the Middle Division or on the Chicago line. You just don't. You go down there, you might see 5, 6 trains, and if you see that many, you had a good day.
Right.
Some days I've gone down there and seen 2, So, but I don't get to those places like I used to because it's not as exciting anymore. I mean, Sand Patch was always exciting. Places like Fairhope and up along Mance and Sand Patch itself. I mean, that's what, listen to them trains climbing those grades for miles and miles,
Yeah.
And it's a variety of things, but, being safe about it's That's the most important thing, and that's what gives some of these rail fans a bad name. They want to climb on signals and do stupid stuff, and it makes it bad for everybody else, and it makes it unsafe.
Yeah. Brad, how about you? I know you went out to Nebraska once to do some rail fanning.
Several times I've been out to Nebraska. Yeah, but it's kind of funny because when I was younger, like in my 20s, I was all for high density, lots of which, and I still like that. That's still what I model. But the older I've gotten, the more I've become interested in railroad history. So in my 20s, it was Altoona and Cumberland. Altoona obviously was the busier of the two places, but both of them you could see quite a few trains back in the 90s. Then I did the Buffalo line through here was still pretty hopping back in those days. So I the science building at Lock Haven University, where I got my undergrad degree from, was maybe 150 yards from the Buffalo line main line. So I always tried to have as many, of course, being a physics major, I had classes in that science building anyway, but I even took electives there because wanted to get in the classroom that overlooked the tracks because
I love it.
at that time, the Buffalo line, you could see 18, 20 trains in a 24-hour period, which is a lot more than what you see now. But that was
6 or 8.
No, I don't even think there's that many now. It's north.
Well, north of Sunbury, there's not much.
Yeah.
Everything goes up the old D&H, which is the old PRR line. It went up to Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah. When NS took over, they routed a lot of that overhead traffic off the Buffalo line, mainly because of Keating Summit. But as I was mentioning, I've gotten more interested in the history of the area. So even though you don't see many trains up through there, up in the wilds of PA, they call it, it is just stunningly beautiful up there. So I will go up, and there's still a PRR signal bridge up at Driftwood that because of that's where the Buffalo and Pittsburgh meets the Buffalo line. So the Buffalo line they were both 2-track mains at one time, I think, or maybe the Buffalo and Pittsburgh was a main and a siding, but there were 4 tracks there. So there's still a Pensy 4-track signal bridge that sits there at Driftwood. There's no signals on it, but the bridge is still there. So I like to go up that way and there's some really cool bridges and stuff that I like to get pictures of, and it's all basically for the historical context of it. I don't even know I guess it's still rail fanning, but even more so now, the Iron City historian and I have shared our interest in the former Beach Creek line, which the Beach Creek was a line that was headquartered in Jersey Shore, and then the New York Central took it over. And I had heard my grandfather talk about going through all these places like Orviston, Monument, these little towns that are basically dots on a road map. But Richard was up here last summer, and we traced a lot of the old, some places the tracks are still there for the Beach Creek, but in a lot of places it's just right away that fortunately has been preserved as like walking and biking trails. But you definitely don't see any trains on the Beach Creek, but it's still a lot of rail history there that was very important to this area.
And that's another whole piece of it. Yeah, the history of it all is just fascinating. And that's, I think, one of the best parts about going out to watch trains, and whether it's following old lines like that, Brad, I mean, that's totally legit. We're watching trains at Horseshoe Curve or Lewistown Station, which is an old PRR station. It's beautiful. It's got a museum in it, everything else now. Or you go to the Iron Triangle of Fostoria, Ohio, or out west on some of the mountain grades. It all helps inspire what you're doing on your model railroad. And the history of it all, there's layers to it, which I think just adds so much interest to what you're doing on your model layout, on your railroad as well.
It does.
So it's just a fun way to tie it all together.
And those areas that I mentioned, like up the Buffalo line and then out the Buffalo and Pittsburgh, which is the former PRR low grade secondary, that's the area where my main line runs through on my semi-fictionalized PRR. So that's another reason why I like to go up there, just to get the lay of the land and stuff. But the other area that Pat mentioned that I've come into recently, when my sister and her husband got jobs at the University of Nebraska teaching there, I got to go out in Nebraska back in the day when they were still hauling God only knows how much coal out of the Powder River Basin in Wyoming. and it all came through on there's two main lines, the BNSF, which goes right through Lincoln where they live. And then, of course, not far from there is the UP main line. But those two main lines cross at a town called Grand Island, Nebraska. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that or not.
Grand Island, absolutely.
Yeah. I went there a couple times back in the heyday of the Powder River coal boom, guys, and I've never seen anything like it. I really haven't. It was the UP main line at that time was easily topping 100 trains a day.
Yep.
And
Between
BNSF,
Omaha and North Platte, they run 100 trains a day.
Yeah, and it's not that many anymore because there's not as much coal coming out of Powder River anymore, but there's still quite a few trains. But even the BNSF main line, which wasn't as busy at that time, was hitting like 75 a day. So there's a park. Well, there's a park that you can sit right along the UP main line, which provides enough traffic. But if you drive to the other side of town, there's like this vacant lot that you can sit your car in, and the flyover for the BNSF main line goes over top, and you can see both lines. And I was there, I can remember, I think probably 6 hours, and I will guarantee you I saw every bit of 50, 55 trains in 6 hours. It was just one right after the other. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's another favorite. The other thing that's kind of goofy that I like to do out there in Lincoln is the BNSF uses that Pink Lady ballast. I don't know if you guys have ever.
Sure. Yep.
Find a piece of that that's been knocked off the main line land, and I've come home with 3 or 4 chunks of that Pink Lady ballast just because I think it's kind of unique. But yeah, those are the kinds of places that I've rail fanned frequently. And last summer, Pat, we were fortunate enough to be able, and Todd, you were there too. We all got to join Dave and a bunch of his buddies at the Station Inn, which is always an awesome place to go and watch trains.
Absolutely.
And if you want to be
awesome, it's really awesome watching it from the inside out.
Yeah. If you
and waving to Uncle Dave when you go by.
Yeah. Yeah. And the two things about that trip that still stand out to me is if you want to see a trash train, make sure you're there with Pat.
I knew that was coming. I can feel that softball being tossed at me.
The other thing that I was amazed to see while I was there is it's the first time in my life that I ever saw a rail fan get rail fanned while he was standing along the track.
Yeah.
Remember the guy went by and he was wearing an OC t-shirt.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
John K's. Yep.
Yep. Oh, it's funny.
Yeah. He gets rail fanned while he's rail fanned. Dave Abeles.
This makes me have a lot of fun.
At least like to go through there at 2:30 in the morning and wake everybody up.
Yeah.
Just slam that horn as much as you could going by. You're coming here to Crescent, the station into Railfanning. You should be out here seeing me go by at 2:30. There's no excuses to be in bed.
So, Dave, with all the technology and everything, what are some tools people are using when they go out to Railfan to monitor? I know Todd has some good tricks of the trade too. Well, Todd just calls his friends and said, "Where you at?" But for us that don't have the actual phone numbers to locomotive engineers, what are some tricks of the trade? Dave, when we were out there and I met some of your friends for the first time, you had guys with laptops up and running. You had some guys with scanners. What are some of the tricks that you use to make a successful day? It's almost like going fishing every once in a while. Sometimes you catch a good one, sometimes you catch a trash train. So what? How do you plan that, Dave, for your day or where you're going when you do some rail fanning?
Oh, the scanner has really become an indispensable tool because what that lets you do is listen to the same radio frequencies that the railroaders are using to chat and to communicate while they're doing their work. So for $150 or $200, you can pick up a good quality scanner. You program in the AAR channels, and you can either look online to see what they are, or look at the railroad timetables, which list the radio protocols and what channel everybody's using. So listening in is a great way to learn more, and that's an indispensable thing on the Onondaga cutoff too. Is that radio language that's used on the railroad is a big part of the culture here on the OC, and it's one of the reasons it's so much fun to operate over time. Is that we're all talking the same language, which is that railroad language. But the the great part about it is that a lot of this stuff now has online groups where you can find common people with the same interests. So there's a PRR West Slope group, and they actually put the scanner feed online. So you can listen through a website that's most of the time it's free, and you can just go and listen in whenever you have free time, and you can hear what's going on the railroad, which is a great way to learn the patterns in the traffic, to learn the symbols, who's doing what where. And lastly, there's all sorts of those groups that have people on them, and a lot of those people, they're really willing to help you out. So it's worth reaching out to people that you find through these groups, whether it's a historical society or online, that can help you learn a little bit more about the art of railfan photography, or how to listen to the language and know what you're listening to. And like anything else, the more you do it, the more fun it gets, and the better the hobby, the deeper the hobby becomes for you.
There's another with the technology, Pat. I don't know if you were there. I don't think you were there when this happened. Dave, you might have been out railfanning too, but at Crescent, a lot of us were sitting out on the porch with there were laptops that had the railfan feeds, rail cam feeds from like Horseshoe Curve, which was to the east of us, and then Johnstown, which was to the west. So anytime a train went through, we could see it on there. But then everybody had a different scanner feed. Like some of us had a feed that was to the east of us, some to the west. But anyway, at one point there were like 4 different guys that had the scanner feed on their phone. So we heard because the timing was off a little bit, because I guess they were coming from further away. We heard the same train announced 4 times that went by one of the talking detectors, and Rich Wisniewski was standing there. He's like, guys, we don't need to hear it 4 times.
Once is enough.
3 I can handle, but 4 is just too much.
The second day I come up there, Becky and I come up the second day there, I stopped at the yard office in Altoona, and I said to the yard master, I said, hey, pull me up some sheets of trains coming from both directions. And he's like, yeah, okay. So I printed off like 4 different pages of all these trains coming from, Allentown and Harrisburg and Conway, and coming into Conway, we'd eventually see there. So I brought them up, and I thought I was going to get mugged when I got on the porch up there. I'm like, here's everything that's coming.
Oh, everybody was so happy to see that. Yeah. I mean, that, insider info, it's more likely now than it used to be. But boy, is it a pleasure, just because, there's a lot of railroaders that love what they do and are willing to share. Used to be a wall between people that work for the railroad and people that like to watch trains. You'd never admit it.
We always had those closet buffs.
Oh, sure. Yep.
They didn't want to admit they liked trains, they had trains, and then they would let it out of the bag once in a while. Like, oh yeah, you're just a foamer, or yeah, you're just a piker. I'm like, well, where did you hear that technology? Where did you hear that language at? I don't
exactly.
But I got an HO layout in my basement. I'm like, oh, okay, you're holding out on me here. I'm the one that thinks I'm the only buff on the railroad, but there's other ones out there too. But most of the guys that work for the road like what they do, and they enjoyed it, and they gave rail fans the time of day. Most of them did. There's some that didn't, but most of them do. So some of them thought it was stupid, but
Do you guys think that NS has caused a new generation of rail fans when they went ahead and did the heritage units? There's just pages on just that one unit, the Lehigh Valley or the Pensy or whoever's running the Clinchfield, whatever they got painted that day, it's out there.
You can thank Wick Mormon for that, because he was the big driving force for that.
Yeah, he had a lot to do with it. It definitely, he built off the energy that was started with Union Pacific.
Yep.
But it really did break down some of the walls to celebrate a railroad's anniversary is a exciting thing, and we piggybacked on that same energy at NJ Transit. That's how the heritage program started at NJ Transit too.
Yep.
And you guys have had some really cool ones too, Dave. And I know.
Oh man, it's so much fun.
One of the
I don't care for the Conrail one, but other than that,
I really, as soon as I saw the picture of that PRSL one, I fell in love with it and said, I gotta paint one.
I love that you dove in with that, and that model's coming out nice, my friend. It really looks good.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to find a 3D print of the actual. What is it? A GP42
GP42H.
GP40PH
Yeah,
for
PH.
for the passenger equipped, and then the H is for the head end power,
Head end power. Yep.
Gotcha.
and
Does
then the
that have a-
-2 electrical. Yep,
Does that have a V8 back there, Dave? A separate V8 engine?
separate little V8 for the
That's what I
head.
thought.
Yep.
See, our F units had them too.
And I
Yes.
did want to ask you too. I don't know if you noticed, but I got a sound equipped chassis for that. Would it?
Oh, good. I saw you were thinking about it. I'm glad you did it.
Would one of those sound like a GP42? Like the prime mover's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, prime
Mover's the same, but the HEP screams on them
Yeah,
because it runs at the constant run 6 up to run 8.
Okay.
So it sounds like an Amtrak F40PH.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. I'll have to change the sound file I have in that then.
So they scream. Rapido did a nice job on their F40PHs in having that enabled, and that's exactly how they sound. Basically, that little HEP unit's running back there full time.
Gotcha.
You should have been in one of them when it was live.
Oh man.
So, Dave, with the company you work for and the heritage units that you guys have, do you have a lot of rail fans that like to see those heritage units in the New Jersey, New York City area?
Definitely. Yeah, that's really caught on quickly. And then Metro North, they started their own program across the river. So now, at any point on both Metro North on the old New York Central and all the NJ Transit lines out of Hoboken, especially, you're pretty much, it's rare that you're at Hoboken Terminal and don't see one or two heritage units coming and going. And it's a lot of fun because those are mixed in with all of our great older, the regular disco stripe NJ Transit painted engines as well, on top of some of the modern ones that out 45s and 46s. So it's a neat spot, and the railfan community's definitely noticed. And most importantly for me, I think the employees have noticed a little bit. The goal was to create a little bit of a source of pride for a company that could use a little more pride. And it's exciting to see guys have jumped in and pushed along, and I sure hope we can continue that ball rolling.
Well, I think mostly Dave too. Like when we did the heritage units on NS, and I'm still out in the main line yet when that all took place. It like you said, it gives the guys a sense of pride. Hey, look, the railroad's actually doing something. But then you have that one guy that says, well, they're spending all that money on painting this stupid engine and, they could give us a raise. Well, they're paying you well enough as it is. You don't need to make them kind of comments. But I think once them units get out there and, people got to see them, because we still had some former, older employees yet that were still around yet that recognized those heritage units, I don't think there's a Reading or a Lehigh Valley man left anymore. I'm sure they're probably all retired or gone by now. But
yeah, I think we've got a couple left over, just a couple of the guys that are at the railroad still. One fellow's hired out in the New York Central as an intern in 1968.
Wow.
And he's still working every day. We got one or two others that are a little more modern, a little more recent than him, I should say, but guys well into their 70s who are still railroading day in and day out because they love it that much. It's a calling.
Yeah. If the branch line still would have been up by NS here and I could hold it, I'd still be working on the branch line here. But
yeah, something close. Sure.
Yep. I drive to work every day, 70 miles one way, and things have changed. They're not the way they used to be.
No, it's definitely, look, in the end, running trains it's a lot of fun to ride on a train or ride a locomotive, but the rules are a lot different now.
Yep.
And it's a younger man's game in a lot of ways. And what that does is that lets us enjoy what we're doing from the hobby standpoint. It lets us enjoy the model railroading, lets us come together on those kind of ideas. And I think that's important too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what we try to do here. We don't, operate like you do with signals and radios and things like that, because I don't have those type of people, that's what I want to say, that's acclimated to doing that.
Sure. It takes time to build up a group that's willing to do that kind of stuff. It takes time.
Right. And I don't have that luxury around here of the people that can come together on a weekly or monthly basis,
You know what we do have planned though, Dave? You'll love this. I'm going to be taking a power cab down there, and Todd wants to be able to have people use phones to run trains on his layout. So,
oh, cool.
So there's going to be some experimentation going on to see how.
Well, that's great. That's great. And that's the part. I mean, you never get tired of finding things to do in this hobby. There's always a way to come together and spend a little time figuring out a new way to have fun together. I think it's just great.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea about it. It's like this event coming up for us here. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great day. There's going to be a lot of people in and out of here, but it's always fun and talking trains and sharing the hobby with people and trying to get younger people interested.
And there may be an impromptu rail fanning session attached to this too, to get back to the topic of rail fanning.
Yeah.
I mean, last year it was the model trains. This year we may try to do, nothing super planned out, but maybe just a spontaneous impromptu. Let's go down to Lewistown Station and see what comes through or something like that. You just don't know. So
I think the great thing about rail fanning, if nothing else, it allows you to see what's actually happening. And you're so surprised a lot of times of what the railroads actually got on the rails that day. And you're like, wow, I didn't know that combination could actually exist. And there it is. I remember DJ from DJ's Trains was rail fanning once and captured regular freight with 3 Amtrak cars on the back of it because they were moving them to another location or whatever. You're like, you would never model that on a model railroad because that doesn't look realistic. Well, it actually happens. There's so much
it
different
happens
things
all the time. Yeah. I've hauled passenger cars on the back of my freight trains already too.
And I think and another thing is rail fanning just gives you that different angles and the different viewpoints of real trains. Then you go back to your layouts and you say, okay, that looks realistic, or now that I could tweak that, or hey, that bridge is a little low, or it just gives you a perspective of rail fanning does. It's very enjoyable, and I really just think it's a key point of the hobby.
It's an opportunity, and
yes,
it allows you to enjoy the hobby at a whole different level when you can tie it to what you actually see. You're actually building something that matters to other people then, and that's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I stretch mine out to run long trains because that's what you see.
Right.
I feel the same way. Yep.
It's what you see when you go out to Railfan, and like the road railer, I've had a 10-car road railer and I had a 150-car road railer and everything in between. So, it is what it is. So there's a prototype for everything, and nobody could tell me there isn't because I've seen it all. I have seen it all. There's just you just never know. I mean,
Well, guys, it was extremely great to talk to everybody tonight. Get our OCS guys back out here for Volume 3. We really appreciate Dave and Todd giving us a lot of insight. Brad, thanks for adding all your good comments this evening. And we will be back right after this with our closing comments. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Well, Brad, I think you and I had 3 sentences there.
Yeah. and even so, I feel like I was on like a 300-mile-an-hour roller coaster with my hair and ears pinned back. It's like sitting in the middle of a cyclone, isn't it?
Oh man, you know what the great thing about that is when we do a show with the OCS guys, it goes so quick. You're like, oh man, we can't be that far ahead, and it's like, well, I guess we got to call it a night. We'll try to get a Volume 4 going here. I guess we'll get another topic going and get those guys going again. I could listen to those guys all night long.
Oh, I could too. And if we had time, I mean, we're doing these a lot of times on work nights, but if we have time, we could probably sit down in one sitting with those guys and get enough good information to share for probably 3 or 4 episodes without any trouble. If all 4 of us had to, because only one of the 4, Pat, is retired.
Right.
The other 3 of us aren't. So, but yeah, it's just, and it's like you said. I mean, 45 minutes. Well, I guess it was 51 minutes, but it goes by in the blink of an eye.
Oh yeah.
Those 2, they just have. Oh, they both have the gift of gab. They're good at talking and making things interesting when they talk, and they both have a lot of interesting topics to talk about. They both have led very interesting lives, both in their professional careers on the railroads that they work for, which were for Todd, Conrail and Norfolk Southern, and for Uncle Dave, New Jersey Transit. Just a lot of interesting content from that. But then to top it off, they're both excellent, outstanding modelers with awesome railroads. So
Correct.
model railroads. So, I mean, it's a two double threat guys there for sure.
Well, Brad, you don't realize that you're a rail fan guy when you're a model railroader sometimes. And it took me years to go, you know what, I gotta go find these places everybody's talking about. Because I was at Cassandra for the first time, Station N 2 years ago for the first time. I mean, I didn't realize this world was out there. You know what I mean? So I think this helps that we're not these lone wolves in the basement anymore. We're getting out there, getting in the public, and then you find out, oh my goodness, there's a whole nother side to railroading, right? For fans and for modeling, that you can go out and rail fan and join this other community, and it's something.
And we have
live real railroad to watch.
And we really, about coming out of the lone wolf thing, we have to thank our community at Iron City for that. While you and I basically started it right from the beginning, we were fortunate to right from the beginning by complete luck, not by anything we skillfully did, but just meet up with the right group of guys. And it was like 6 or 7 of us, maybe 8, 9, I don't even remember, but it was just, a handful or 2 of guys, but just the right kind of people with the right kind of skills, the right kind of knowledge came together and just created what has been a very special community for us at Iron City. And of course, this podcast is an offshoot of that. So I think we should count on. We were talking about that the other day with, the community and friendships that have grown out of this are something that we should never take for granted. And just, it's been great. Just been great to be a part of that. I've said it before, but I started designing and building my layout with the idea that I would probably be the only one who ever ran anything on it. And now I got a whole bunch of people from all over that have seen videos of my layout, but also have run on it here in person and remotely. So just, I never would have dreamed of that. And it was only 2018, 8 years ago, when I was in the design phase. That wasn't even on my radar screen. So just a lot of changes for the good have happened, I guess. But we don't want to belabor this because we have a pretty full show, don't we?
Oh yeah. So hey, Brad, you want to tell them one last chance? We're gonna post this on Wednesday night. So Brad, tell them one more time about the rally.
When this podcast gets published, the rally in Burnham, speaking of Todd Treaster, at Todd and his wife Becky's home in Burnham, PA, we'll be having the second annual rally in Burnham, which is a combination of the Iron City T-track layout and, of course, Todd's outstanding, awesome NYS&A layout. So you get a double shot of layouts there, and we'll be setting up for that Friday night, and then the rally itself, come one, come all, on Saturday morning. I think the official times are from 9 to 3, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll have postings on the Iron City webpage between now and then. That'll make that for sure. But if you're free and not too far away and want to come down and see us at Burnham, come on down and run some trains with us, or just watch, whatever you want to do. Run some trains. If you want to find out what it's like to run a 100+ car train in N scale, you can come and do that on Todd's layout too. So a lot to do there, and we hope to see many of our Iron City family there with us, and looking forward to that once again, Pat. So having said all that, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that's going to be April the 11th. And can you give us the times one more time, Brad?
I believe it's from 9 to 3, if I'm 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
And then we'll have all this on our page.
I hope I'm remembering that right, because that's going to be pretty embarrassing if I got the time wrong.
And Brad, I'm assuming we'll have some tower cams going and some videos too.
Yep. Yes. So while you're doing your wrap up, I'll make sure I confirm the correct time. How's that sound?
Oh, that sounds great. Okay, everybody. If you're trying to listen to the podcast, here are the availabilities. You can go to Apple Podcasts. You can go to YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, FM Player, or Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. And we're on the Iron City InScale page on Facebook. You can DM myself, Brad, or any of our special guests that you hear on the podcast. You can post. Our international listeners, don't feel free to post. You don't have to just be modeling the Pennsylvania area or the Pittsburgh area. You can model wherever you want. And we will definitely like to see your modeling. Everybody has a great skill set out there, from beginner to expert. So we don't discriminate. Post those away. We like to see your post on our Iron City InScale page.
Absolutely, Pat. And I do have one minor correction to make. Setup time starts at 9. The doors open for people to want to come and visit at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Saturday, April 11th.
Okay.
If you have a module in the layout, though, and need to set it up, we'll be there setting things up before that. But doors officially open to the public at 10 a.m. at 309 3rd Avenue, Burnham, Pennsylvania. Looking forward once again to seeing as many of our Iron City family as we can, and also a lot of the folks who follow Todd on his NYS&A page. Hope we can get good bunch of people there to share in the fellowship and fun to be had in the greatest hobby on earth, model railroading. So that's that, Pat.
Okay. All right, everybody. I'm going to take us out tonight, which I don't do very often. But I want to say thanks to everybody. Once again, thanks to our great guests, Dave Abeles and Todd Treaster. And you've been listening to the Iron City Roundhouse Report. Good night.
All right, rail fans, that's all the steam we've got for this edition of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. Until next time, keep those gauges green, your couplers connected, and may your layouts always run smoothly. Happy railroading.